Hey everybody, it's Dana and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are playing with the June 2022 My Monthly Hero Kit. And I have got to show you this gorgeous mermaid in this stamp set. Of course, with this kit, you're going to get some great products that are going to coordinate together, but I will have to tell you that this mermaid is definitely my favorite. I'm going to grab a white piece of paper so you can see how beautiful this image is. You're also going to have some other things that you can add to your cards like coral and fish, but the mermaid has really stolen my heart. Now for my card today, I knew I wanted to watercolor. So I'm using the Luxe white watercolor paper, and this paper is from Hero Arts. What I love about this paper is that it is a very bright white and it works perfectly for watercoloring simple images. All right, so I'm going to line that up in my MISTI. And I am going to center my mermaid. So I'm just going to trim down this panel, but I'm not necessarily going to die cut her out. If you guys are new to my channel, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my tutorials. So once I have her pretty much centered on the paper, I can go ahead and close down this lid, and I know she's going to be in the place where I need her when I start to watercolor. Now, if you guys want to see any more images that I've watercolored, I'll put a link up here in the corner for you so you can check that out. I do want to do a little bit of heat embossing, so I did grab my anti-static powder bag and treated my paper with this, and I am going to use clear embossing powder. Because I'm going to stamp in black, I do want to clear heat set this. So I'm using my Hero Arts Intens-ified black ink, and because watercolor paper has texture to it, you're going to have to stamp usually more than one time. And I'll show you right here. So I have this really inked up pretty well. I'm going to use my pressure tool here. But when I lift this back, you're going to see that it looks like I missed some spots. And that is because it's watercolor paper. It has texture to it. So I need to make sure that I stamp this enough times where I'm going to get a really crisp line. Now I did set a piece of paper off to the side, so as soon as I take this out, I can go ahead and place down that clear embossing powder. So as you can see, I'm rubbing pretty hard. Again, this is texture paper. I have a nice black result. And now I'm going to quickly sprinkle on that clear embossing powder. Now I will have all of the products linked below of what I used today for this tutorial. And you can also head on over to my blog and you can see additional photos of this image. All right, once I have that done, I am going to make sure to clean up my embossing powder because I do have a tendency to knock this over on my desk and it goes everywhere. So we're going to be safe than sorry, and we're going to close that up. Now all I have to do is go ahead and heat set this. But before I heat set this, I do want to put this on to my clipboard. And this is going to help the paper from warping when I start adding all the water to it a little bit later. So if you're going to do watercoloring, I highly suggest that you tape it down to a hardboard. I couldn't find my original hardboard, so I just grabbed my clipboard. And I'm just going to put down some purple tape all around all four sides. And again, this is going to help me with the bowing of my paper because I know I'm going to be adding a lot of water to this. Once I have everything taped down, I can go ahead and heat set this. Now I do like to make sure I bring a very hot heat gun to this board. And you'll see here too that the tape might get a little bit unstuck from the clipboard, and that's okay. That's just because we're adding a lot of heat to this. But I'm just going to show you how you can flatten everything back out. So with the magic of my heat tool, you're going to be able to see those really nice crisp black lines. Now, you know when you have everything heat set is when you just don't see any of the lighter, more powdery looking lines. You know that you have everything heat set. So once I take that away, I go back in and I press down those tape. lines one more time to get them to stick back to the mat. And I can do that because the tape and the paper is still a little bit warm, so it's going to allow me to press that back down onto the clipboard. Now I realized I missed one little spot. I just want to make sure I heat set that, because once I start the coloring, I'm not going to be able to heat set this again. All right, now we can go ahead and start watercoloring. I like to keep distilled water on my desk to do my watercoloring. And I also have a few of Hero Art liquid watercolors, and I also have a palette. Now I did speed this up because this is just, what I'm doing here is just adding a little bit of each color into that little petal. So I have cocoa, I have coffee, I have some pink, I have some black, and I also have some white. So I'm just putting a little bit of each color into each one of the petals, and this is going to allow me to just go ahead and pull from this palette. I do have 3 different size brushes, and I'm going to be alternating between all 3 of them during my coloring process. So like I said, I did speed this up, but I do want to give you some tips. Anytime I'm watercoloring, I like to first start with a white wash of water. Just lay down some water, and then when you pull in your color, you're going to see your color is going to move a lot easily. So a light wash of water first, and then I bring in my color. And I like to have like one layer of color and then build upon that color. So as you can see here, I'm just putting down one layer, getting that layer down, and then I'll start coming back in and adding some shadows. This to me is just a really easy way to get a really nice color blend. But if you're a little bit too worried about mixing your colors, it's okay to just use one color, put down that wash, and just come right back in with that same color and build up that color. But in my case, I'm going between the cocoa color and the coffee color, just to give my mermaid a little bit of depth in her skin. I'll go around her arm, add a little bit of shadow that will be from her hair, and then I can go ahead and finish up removing any of the water or the color I don't want by using just a clean brush. I've switched to the medium-sized brush here, and I'm coming in and I'm doing her hair. But first, I want to really dilute down that black. I want it to almost be like a gray shade. I add just a little bit of white. Again, come in with the water first, and then I start adding color. Now you guys don't see, but off to the side, I do have a napkin where I can dab off any excess water I have on my brush before I bring it to my image. So one more time, I'm going down the left side of her hair now. First with that clean wash of water to get that color really moving, and then I can build up the color from there. And I'm really trying to make her roots a little bit more darker than the rest of her hair. So as you can see, I have a nice color wash down. I am going to dry this back a little bit before I start coming in with almost a pure black color. And this is just going to give me some movement in her hair as if she had like lowlights in her hair. So I'm going to come in with a darker black. Again, this is a little bit watered down, so it's not going to be like a true black until I just start dipping my pen directly into the black. I'm sorry, not my pen, my paintbrush. And you'll really be able to see those darker black kind of hair pieces. And I think that just gives a nice little bit of movement in her hair. Next, I'm going to come in with that pink, and I'm going to start coloring up her fin. Again, I'm starting just with a light wash of the pink. And then I'm going to mix some brown into that pink, and I'm also going to mix some black, just so I get another variation of that color. And I can achieve that by putting in a darker shade. So you can use the brown or the black, and you're just going to get a darker shade, more of a more burgundy magenta color of pink. Now, since I have that done, I'm going to go over her body with just the white. And then I'm going to add in some of that pink I mixed up into the white to give me a lighter shade of pink. And I'm just dropping that in along a few of her little scales. I'm going to add a little bit more pink to this so I can get a third color of pink. I will make sure to kind of heat set everything as I go along. And then I'm going to come in with that darker pink. Again, this is just going to be a very monochromatic kind of like body for her because I really didn't want to add a lot of color. Now you can see just how gorgeous she is. And I'm thinking if I want to put a sentiment, but first I need to make the bottom portion to ground her. So I am going to use clean water, and I'm going to use a wet brush, and I'm going to come in and start putting down the sand that she's just going to be sitting on. So as you can see, this is really watered down. Like there is a lot of water going on. And that's because I want to start once again with a light base of color. I don't want to come in too strong. I can always add color, but it's very hard sometimes to take color away. So I like to build up my color first by using a very light wash of color, and then I can build it up. Now I'm going to come in and add a little bit of shading underneath where she would be sitting, because she would kind of be sinking into that sand a little bit, so she needs a shadow underneath her. Now I can dry back this, and you see it dries back pretty light, so I can still keep building up color here. I did switch to my smallest paintbrush, and I'm adding in like the little specks of sand, because you know sand's not flat, right? It has grains or granules in it. So I'm using my two browns here to go ahead and add in some of those specks of color. And by using the smallest paintbrush, I'm able to do that. Once again, I'll go right back under her to darken up that shadow of her sitting on the sand. And then she looks absolutely gorgeous. Now, I don't want her just to be floating, right? She needs to have a backdrop behind her. So I went ahead and grabbed some blues here. I grabbed Teal and Deep Ocean, and I'm going to mix those colors together with a little bit of white. So I'm getting a custom color here. So if you're ever doing a custom color, make sure when you mix it that you have enough that you know is going to take you through your project, because it'd be really hard for me to create this color again. So I make sure I have enough, and then I'm coming in again, as you can see, just with a little bit of water, and then I start bringing in that color. Excuse my head right here. I really wanted to get up close and personal with my mermaid, just so I can kind of trim her out right around her hairline. But again, you can see this is very light. I am not going very dark with this. I first start off with the wash of color, and again, I can always build that color up. Now, I did want to slow this down because I want to show you how I make my clouds. Once I have all of that blue down, that paper's pretty wet. So what I'm going to do to create my clouds is just grab a rag. I'm going to wet this rag with just clean water. And then I can kind of bunch this up in my hand, and I'm going to be able to lift up that blue, and that's going to help me create my clouds. So I don't have to go back in there with white paint to create the clouds. I can just do it by lifting up some of that blue with the rag. And then you can see I can have gorgeous clouds. Now I did want to darken this up just a little bit, so I am going to go back over those clouds. I kind of can see exactly where they still are, so I can obviously go right back in with that wet rag and lift in those areas again. So I'm just going to darken that blue up just a little bit, and then I can grab that rag, add a little bit more water to it, and then get my clouds. And now my clouds actually look a little bit more brighter because my blue is a little darker. And look how easy that is to make gorgeous clouds. That's your cloud tip for today, you guys. All right, now since this is done, I can go ahead and heat set this. Now the paper was pretty saturated with water, so I did take my time to heat set this. Now I have this beautiful design. I'm just pressing on it to make sure I got most of the water up, and then I can peel back the tape. Now you'll see, because I had this tape down to my board, I really don't have a lot of bowing in my paper. I'll just pull that off, and I have a nice clean white border, but I do know I want to trim this down a little bit. But look how gorgeous she is, and look how pretty those clouds ended up turning out. I mean, this month's My Monthly Hero Kit is just so gorgeous for these like sea scenes. All right, so I went ahead and I trimmed this down so I can put it on a 5x7 card. But again, look how gorgeous this little mermaid is. And just by having that peak of white around from the card base, it's really gonna frame her out nicely. Now, I thought about putting a sentiment on here, like a happy birthday sentiment, but then I decided I just didn't want to add anything to her. I just thought she was just so pretty the way she is, and I did not want to add a sentiment. And that's what's so great when you create. You don't have to add a sentiment to your card right away. You can place this card aside and then figure out later what sentiment you want to put on it. So don't always feel obligated right away to put a sentiment on your card. I have a tendency to kind of walk out of my craft room, maybe grab another cup of coffee or something, and then come back and look at my card again and see if I really want to add a sentiment. And if I want to add a sentiment, what kind of sentiment do I want to add? So I did use Hero Precision Glue here, and I put it all the way around, and I'm just kind of smoothing out those lines I made with my fingers, just so it doesn't show on the opposite side when I go ahead and press this down. So now I can line that up, and what's so great about using that wet medium, it gives me the opportunity to kind of slide this into place exactly where I want it. All right, everybody, all the products are going to be linked below. Don't forget to head all over to my blog. I'll have extra pictures, really close-up pictures here, and I'll also have links there as well. Have a fantastic day, everybody, and I will see you guys in another video soon. Take care and stay safe.